Today on Haltech Workshops, we've called in to see Perth Ford aficionados at Monsta Torque. Rob, thanks for having me here at Monsta Torque. When I walked in, the first thing I saw was about 4 or 5 Falcons, so I'm guessing you're a Ford guy?
Well, you've come to the right place if you brought a Falcon with you, but unfortunately you didn't by the look of it.
Okay, and how did you get into that, like the Ford specialty, let's say?
It's just sort of something that's growing. Always been involved in modified cars. Even when I was at school, I used to do a bit of part-time work. Had one of the first BAs into the country with a turbo ute, so that was a pretty good starting stone.
Yeah, right, and that sort of got you into the Barra scene.
Yeah.
Now, they do a lot of things with Barras these days. They're a bit of a buzzword in the engine game, you know, Barras, you know, Barra of the world, that sort of stuff. What is it about the Barra that you think makes it such a tough engine that people want to modify?
It's sort of, my personal view on them is they're like an RB, but with cubes.
Yep.
So they make a lot more torque that I personally believe than an RB, and they're pretty bulletproof. Like, to make 1,000 horsepower out of a Barras fairly easily with the right components, and they seem to sustain it. Like, we've been spinning these, you know, a couple of big cars that we took to race wars this year to 7.3, 7.4, and you know, they've had their oil changed, and there's nothing in the filters. Like,
it's all pretty clean.
They're all clean. We've cut filters and had a look, and we're really happy with how they went.
So as you say, a 1,000 horsepower Barra isn't a super uncommon thing or a very difficult thing to make. One of the things about a lot of the Barras is the ZF gearbox that it's got. It's a pretty stout gearbox from factory, but I'm guessing when you're putting 1,000 horsepower through one, you're going to start breaking stuff. What sort of stuff do you do here? Because you specialise in the ZF as well, rebuilding the ZF. Can you show me what you do to actually shore them up a bit?
Yeah, definitely. We've got a box apart that's actually had a milkshake, so we can run through a few things on that and show you what we do. There's no secrets.
Yeah, cool. So when you say a milkshake, sounds delicious, but I'm guessing it's not ideal if it results in the box being rebuilt.
So from factory, the gearboxes have a heat exchanger on them, has coolant and oil, obviously in separate compartments. With poor servicing and over a period of time, they corrode inside and they also crack, and you end up with transmission and coolant mixed together.
And it all goes frothy and looks like a milkshake.
That's where we get our milkshake from.
Right, well, I won't go out and drink one of those.
Oh, you can have a try if you like.
What do you do to prevent that from happening?
So there's a couple of things you can do. One is obviously replace the standard heat exchanger every sort of 50, 60,000 Ks, or there are products out there that are a better quality. Or to eliminate it totally is an air-to-air cooler.
Okay.
There's been a bit of controversy over that over the last few years with changing oil flows and temperatures, and the ZF has to run at a certain temperature, but we've found that using those on our cars, the air-to-air cooler, oil-to-air cooler, we can't have a milkshake and we're still sustaining good transmission temperatures even at the track.
So it works?
Yeah, so it works, and it works for us.
So the heat exchanger is one thing. What else do we need to look at with the ZF?
So obviously input shaft upgrades are a big thing. Quite a few people, well, tuners around the country have an input shaft failure.
Okay.
Couple of different options. You can have a new cryoed shaft in our boxes, or you can have a billet, or there's also the 6R80 hybrid upgrade. It seems to be the most popular and reliable, I personally believe. The problem with that is there's always going to be a weakest link. So if you start beefing up here, it then follows down to the gearbox and you end up snapping the intermediate shaft.
These don't look like really thick shafts to be holding 1,000 horsepower.
It's pretty scary what we've actually got away with over the last few years with the size of that input shaft. We've actually run 9s with that shaft. But for reliability at the track and also for customers, you know, they need some safeguarding. So we go to either a billet shaft or the 6R80 hybrid. What you'll find is when you start making this stronger and, you know, it can take more power, you're going to end up pushing that, stress down the end of the line, and that's where your intermediate shafts snap here normally.
Yep, smallest point.
Yeah, ping the shaft off. That can also be caused by tuning and shift overlaps. Also with customers doing kickdowns.
Yep.
So they'll be going along the freeway and they put their foot down with no mechanical sympathy, and they'll kick down a couple of gears and they'll slam
and
forward and it's all over. So you can reduce that in the tune, but it also comes back down to the customer and how they, drive the vehicle.
When you talk about the tune, now you're not necessarily talking about the engine tune, because the gearbox, the ZF gearbox, has its own computer, doesn't it?
It does. There is a fair bit of protection you can have in the engine with torque management and spark cut on gear change. That is also in the ZF side of things as well. So it's been pretty interesting working with Haltech and Scott and the guys over there for us to get an understanding of how that's actually applied in the new plug and play for the Falcon. And we're pretty excited about that.
And how that can actually talk with the ZF computer and control everything.
It's doing a pretty good job at the moment. We haven't run it down the track in a big horsepower ZF yet. There's a couple of little things that we need to get our head around and work with the guys over there, but we will, and it'll be pretty interesting.
Oh, it'll be cool to see when that happens. So speaking of fast Falcons, you've got one here behind you. This is your car, isn't it?
This is a workshop car that we've built in 8 days.
Okay.
We made a commitment to Race Wars that we would have a car there. A couple of things happened in the background last year, so we sort of got a bit delayed. A few products we weren't happy with. So it was all of a sudden, I had my missus on the, you've said you're going to commit to building a car, so start cracking the whip on me.
You've got 8 days, get into it.
So you've got 8 days, and we started on the 17th or 18th of February.
Yeah.
There's a shell with a cage, and that was it. And we put a car together.
Wow.
So engine, box was all built and threw it all together, and here it is behind us. That's fast. So we had a close friend of ours drive the car for me. I just believe that it's actually safer to do that because we've got so many things going on in the pits, looking at data logs, looking at other people, looking at customer cars. For me to jump into a car and be thinking about someone else's car, that it's just not the right thing to do. So Josh Herrich actually pedalled that car to 313.
Okay.
He did a really good job of driving the car over the weekend.
That's 313 kilometres an hour. That's not hanging about, is it? That's pretty fast.
We're pretty happy with that for its first outing.
Yeah, wow.
It didn't get any track time at all down the drags, so it was basically straight out and here we go.
Onto a trailer and onto the runway and off you go. And
definitely.
And a success, we call that.
Yeah, we're stoked. So that's 3 cars now that are in the 300s that we've done. So we're over the moon.
Oh, that's awesome. Tell me what makes this car a bit special compared to some of the other ones you've got here?
So there's no secrets with this car. We have pulled as much out of it at this stage as we can. The other cars are full weight. They have aircon, they have heater boxes, everything. This car has been gutted to a certain extent.
So it's a race car.
This is a race car, and we're not going to deny that. The driver was a bit sad that he wasn't going to have aircon, but we put an aircon compressor there, but obviously there's nothing connected to it. So we've taken as much weight out of it as we can. It will be a dedicated track car.
Okay. And what sort of power are you looking at?
So this car went just under 1150.
Okay.
It went on the dyno on the Saturday. We got 10 power runs and that was it, and then it had to get wrapped.
Built motor or?
So it's a built engine. It's got a fire ring set up in it, nice set of rods and pistons. Nothing in that car that we can't sell to a customer.
Of course, we're still looking factory crank, factory block, factory heads.
So factory head, factory crankshaft, factory block.
Yeah, because they're from factory a solid unit, aren't they?
It's been bulletproof.
Yeah.
Even in Josh's purple car that we built for him, that engine's been absolutely bulletproof in that.
Yeah, cool. Pretty big turbo on that. What's that all about?
So we've got a Precision 8385 on it, Gen 2. We're running around 38 to 40 pounds of boost. Okay. There's still more power in that car. It's just woken up now.
Crazy, because a couple of years ago, 40 pounds of boost was just insane. And now it's kind of like, you can do that in a street car. Not every day, but...
Definitely, we're not scared to use boost.
Yeah.
You just got to have everything right there, and loves it.
Awesome. And I'm guessing you've done all of this gearbox work in this one as well?
Yeah, so because it was a bit of a rush job, it's not our normal thing. We'd like to run a gearbox in. We didn't get a chance to do that with this car. It's got the big shafts and everything in it. It's only got a single plate converter.
Okay.
We were having a laugh with our converter guys and they were sort of ducking and pulling their hair out going, you can't do that, but we have.
And it works?
It works. It's not something we would recommend,
Okay.
but the single plate converter held the car for the weekend, so we're absolutely stoked with it.
Yeah, cool.
Big shafts in the back of it as well for axles, like big half shafts, tail shafts done. Yeah, nothing too crazy.
Nothing to break.
No.
Yeah, good.
No, not at this stage.
Well, mate, thanks so much for showing me what goes into building a tough ZF and all of the cool things you do with the Barra here.
Not a problem at all. Thank you very much for coming to see us and bringing us lunch. Much appreciated.
No worries. Well, as always, my name's Richard. This is another Haltech Workshop feature. We'll see you next time.